So Genesis 9 through 11 takes us from Noah and the spread of the nations and the story of Babel. So that's what we're going to cover today. And we're kind of moving toward, remember, our turning point is chapter 12. So chapter 12, we're going to turn from kind of everybody in the world to one man. And that's where we're going to point to today. Okay? So let's read Genesis 9. We're going to start in verse 1. And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. Where have we heard that so far in Genesis?
Wasn't that with
I was going to say,
wasn't that with that?
Okay, so you're going to see a lot of callbacks in this chapter, a lot of callbacks to the first couple chapters of Genesis. The fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth and upon every bird of the fields, upon everything that creeps on the ground and all the fish in the sea. Into your hand they are delivered. Where have you heard that? Genesis 2 in the garden gave it all to Adam and Eve. Okay? Every moving thing that lives shall be food for you. And as I give you the green plants, I give you everything. But you shall not eat flesh with its life, that is the blood. And for your lifeblood I will require a reckoning. For every beast I will require it, and from man. For from this fellow man I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Whoever sheds the blood of man, by man shall his blood be shed. And for God made man in his image. And you be fruitful and multiply, increase and greatly on the earth and multiply it. So do you think God is serious about that whole be fruitful and multiply thing? He said it twice now. Okay? So he's very serious. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, behold, I establish my covenant with you and your offspring after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the livestock, and every beast of the earth with you, as many as came out of the ark, for it is for every beast of the earth. I establish my covenant with you, so God's still talking to Noah here, that never again shall all flesh be cut off from the high waters of the flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, this is the sign of the covenant that I make between me and you, and every living creature that is with you for all future generations. I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. When I bring clouds over the earth, and the bow is seen in the clouds, I will remember my covenant that is between me and you and every living creature on the flesh, of all flesh. And the water shall never again become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. God said to Noah, this is the sign of the covenant that I have established between me and all the flesh that is on the earth.
That's okay. Rain.
Rain.
What's a bow? Oh.
Rain.
Oh.
Isn't that cool?
I wrote down, what's he talking about, bow?
All right.
I wrote that here to ask her when she stopped talking.
Rain.
Okay.
Rain. And then God puts a bow. Rain. Bow. But what does a bow mean in archery terms?
Yeah.
It's a weapon.
It's a weapon. Where is it pointing now? Up. Instead of judgment, down. God is saying now the judgment is going to go up. Okay? So he's saying, I'm no longer going to take my judgment and point it this direction. I'm going to turn the bow around back on me. Okay? So think of an archer knocking that bow and holding it up and saying, if God breaks his covenant, where's the judgment going to go? Up.
Oh.
Okay? So he is basically saying, I'm swearing by myself that if I ever flood again, the judgment's going to be on me. So I want you to see that every time you see a rainbow now, it's not little pretty colors in the sky. It's actually a covenant of God's got that arrow pointed at him if he ever fails that covenant. Okay? So this is what he's saying. How faithful am I that I am never going to flood and wash over everything ever again, and I have this arrow notched at me in judgment. Okay?
Can you say that again? When you see the rainbow in the sky, it says what?
That's a sign of judgment. But remember, it's not pointing down,
It's pointed up.
it's pointed up. So he's taking on the responsibility of the covenant. If I break my covenant with the earth, judgment will come upon me. So that's where he's basically, like we would say, put a knife to your throat. He's got an arrow notched at him. If I am unfaithful, judgment's going to come on me. Okay? So that's why a bow. Okay? Okay. So God blesses Noah and remember he's got 3 sons and 3 daughters-in-law, okay? And we have this whole floating zoo that is now just released onto the world. And he tells them, multiply, spread, and multiply. That's all they gotta do, spread, multiply. What happens when we just have one command to follow? We mess it. We break it. Every single time, y'all, every single time. Okay, we're gonna find out how Noah and his family break.
You got one job.
You have one job.
One job.
Just one job.
Get it.
And you fail. Sorry. Okay. So let's find out how Noah and his family break that promise. Okay, that command. So go to 18. The sons of Noah went forth from the ark, were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham was the father of Canaan. That is the Canaanites. Okay, Canaanites. These 3 were the sons of Noah, and from these were the people of the whole earth were dispersed. Noah began to be a man of the soil. Call back to Genesis 1, 2. Who's the man of the soil? Adam. Another callback, okay? And he planted a vineyard, kind of like a garden. Okay, another callback there. Noah drank the wine and became drunk and lay uncovered in his tent. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his 2 brothers outside. Then Shem and Japheth took a garment, laid it on their shoulders, and walked backward and covered the nakedness of their father. Their faces were turned backward, and they did not see their father's nakedness. When Noah woke from his wine and knew that what his youngest son had done to him, he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant of servants shall he be to his brothers." And he also said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant. May God enlarge Japheth, and let him dwell in the tents of Shem, and let Canaan be his servant." How many times has he now said it? Do you think he's serious?
So Noah's mad at his son Shem?
Oh yeah, we see where the judgment is. It's on Canaan.
Why?
It's very interesting.
Because
We're going to
it's
get there. Let me read one more verse and then we'll talk about it, okay? Verse 28. Chapter 9, verse 28. After the flood, Noah lived 350 years. All the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Okay, so let's talk about going back to the beginning here. Okay, so Noah has his 3 sons. They all get off the ark. Everything should be fine, hunky-dory. Everybody's going to live in peace. We only have 3 guys. 4 guys and 4 women, okay? Right? Noah decides he's going to start feeding his family. He's going to start doing what he's supposed to be doing, taking care of his family. He plants a vineyard, right? But like so many of us, he takes a good gift that God has given and he distorts it, okay? The wine, the grapes and the wine he was supposed to use responsibly, and he doesn't. He chooses to become drunk and then naked. Naked is also a callback. And we also have shame, another callback. Do you see all the callbacks to Genesis 1 and 2 here? Okay. So there's Noah. He's laying naked in his tent, and one of his sons, Ham, comes in there and sees his father naked. Now we are not told exactly what transpires after that point. We do not know if he abuses his father. We do not know if he then goes and makes fun of his father with his 2 brothers. We're not sure exactly what happens. It's kind of left him a little bit of a dark there. That's Ham, okay? But the 2 other brothers, they put on a garment together, so they're standing shoulder to shoulder, and they put a garment over their backs, and then they walk backwards back into the tent and drop it over their father so they are not seeing their father's nakedness. Okay, so they're trying to cover up the shame of the nakedness, which is also a callback. Okay? Alright, so when Noah wakes up, it says that he has realized what Ham has done. So he knows who has done this against him, and he knows what has been done against him.
Did the other sons tell him, or does he just remember that?
It kind of seems like something happened that he was
Right,
kind of
that he was
out of
told?
it, but still aware of what was going on to him.
Right,
So
okay.
again, we're not told specifically what happened in that tent, but it seems from everything that we read that something very bad happened in that tent, and Ham was responsible for it. Okay? So,
Do we find out somewhere else, like in another story, that like Noah and Ham like don't like each other or
No.
anything? No.
we're told that this was Ham decided to go into that tent. He sees his father naked, takes an opportunity, something transpires, and then he also goes and tells his brothers what happened.
What about the responsibility of Noah to not be drunk?
Yes. Which is exactly what was supposed to happen. If he had never been drunk in that tent. Okay, so we see again those personal choices and God's divine thing here, because what are we seeing from Noah? We're seeing the brokenness and sin just like everywhere else, but he was the righteous man that God picked to get on the boat. He was righteous among the entire world. God put him on a boat, he gets off the boat, and he falls.
He lost his whole mind.
Well, and are we talking like a tent with like sides?
Yes.
That like Ham should have been like, hey Dad, can I come in?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that they would have each had their own private tents as they were then rebuilding and things like that. Yeah.
Why
And
did you
Ham
get to the
just-
part where he made Shem the
Okay.
exile?
So we're
Because Ham sounds like the bad one.
Yes. So it's very interesting that we don't see a judgment on Ham. We see a judgment on his
But that was
son.
Canaan.
Canaan is Ham's son.
Oh.
So this is Noah's grandson.
Oh, you're right.
Okay.
I did.
So time has transpired where now they're having children, so it wasn't like the day after they got off the boat. Okay. So children have been born and old enough to be sort of adults here. Okay. But it's interesting that Noah chooses to curse Canaan. We don't know why. We are not told why. We don't know if he was involved in this sin. We're not told specifically that he's involved in this sin. But what is told is that Canaan is now the burden bearer of the judgment here. Okay?
So the New Testament talks about generational sin.
Generational sin here. Yeah. So we're not sure if that plays a part in it, but we are told 3 times that Canaan will be a servant to all of his uncles. Okay? So this is why when you get further into the Old Testament and you hear a lot about the Canaanites and how God wanted to deal with them, this is where it starts beginning. The sin of Canaan starts beginning. Okay? So again, we don't have all of the picture. We would really love some answers to our questions, but we just don't have all those specific questions.
Ham didn't tell them what happened. He just told them that their dad was naked.
Hey, Dad's naked in the
Yeah.
tent.
He didn't tell them what happened.
Yeah,
So.
but obviously it kind of transpires and comes out and is spread, especially when Noah comes out there
When
and
Noah
passes
comes out,
judgment.
passes, yes.
Yeah, something has happened here.
We
Okay.
don't know what age Ham was, and maybe that might have been another reason why he had cursed his son.
Well, he's old enough to have kids, and he was old enough, on the boat. He was about 100, I think, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so he's an adult. He's not a child making this decision. He is a fully grown adult making this decision. Okay, so it is a sobering reminder, as God reminded Cain, sin crouches at the door. We have to rule over it. Okay, you cannot let your guard down against sin, or it will rule over you and overtake you. Because we have Noah, this man of righteousness, who was righteous enough for God to spare, and yet he turns around and this happens. Okay? And also his 3 sons. Okay? I know it's a crazy
My
story.
goodness.
And there's not every single answer. Okay. Alright, so let's find out what happens in chapter 10. So chapter 10, I'm just going to read 2 verses. So verse 1 of Genesis chapter 10, these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Sons were born to them after the flood. Okay? And then it gives you everybody's name. Okay? It lists everybody's name. And then if you skip down to verse 32, these are the clans of the sons of Noah according to their genealogies in their nations, and from the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. Okay? So Genesis 10 records all of these descendants and all of these nations kind of springing up. So Shem, Ham, and Japheth kind of spread out. Okay? But this just isn't just a historical fact. This is where everybody sort of comes from, in that God includes all nations in his plan. Okay? So verse 2 through 5, we see that Jephthah's people, they spread out into like Europe and Asia. Okay? Verses 6 through 14, we see Ham's people spread down into kind of Africa and the Middle East. Okay? And there's an interesting name of note in verses 8 through 9. Cush was the father of Nimrod. You heard that word before. It starts right here in Genesis 10. He was the first on the earth to be a mighty man, and he was a mighty hunter before the Lord. Therefore it was said, like Nimrod, a mighty hunter before the Lord. And we go, that's really cool. He had like a little, participation trophy for being the greatest, right? Gold star on Nimrod. Well, it's being said very sarcastically here, okay? Nimrod was actually the first to rule over Babel, which becomes Babylon, okay? So he's the first there, and his name literally means "let us rebel." So
Isn't that why people say don't be a Nimrod?
don't be a Nimrod. Yeah, that's where this name comes from.
37 and just figuring that out.
Yeah,
Well, I didn't know. I've heard the saying. I just didn't know where it came from now.
right here in Genesis 10 is where it comes from. Yep. So his legacy is literally dripping with sarcasm. He's the mighty hunter, the guy who looks really good. Like, think of Gaston, like, who turns out to be the bad guy in that movie? Gaston. Okay. So think of it just like that, okay? That's Nimrod. Verses 15 through 20, we see the foundations of the nations of Canaan and the others who will plague Israel when we get further along in the Old Testament. And then verses 21 through 31, we see Shem's people, and they're spreading out to like the southeast. They become the Semitic people, including Israel, which is where we come now to chapter 11, okay? We're going to hit this genealogy in chapter 11, okay? So, chapter 11, before we get to the descendants, we're going to talk about the Tower of Babel in verse 1. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words, and as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had brick for stone and Bedouin for mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its tops to the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to the city and to the tower which the children of men had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing that they will purpose to do will now be impossible for them. Come, let us go down and there confuse their language, so that they might not understand one another's speech." So the Lord dispersed them from there over the face of the land, and they left all the building of the city. Therefore the name of it is called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord dispersed them over the face of the whole earth. Now we say,
Somebody's babbling.
when somebody's babbling and you can't understand them, again, right here in Genesis, okay? Now, first we read this story and we're like, what's up with God? Why is he being so mean, right? They just wanted to build a tower. God's being mean here, right? Well, no, okay? And what we're first told is that they're speaking all one language, which seems to contradict the previous chapter, right? But no, okay? So just like Genesis 1 told us the big story, and then Genesis 2 took us back to day 6 and told us what happened on day 6, chapter 10 tells us how all of them spread out through the whole earth. Chapter 11 goes, let me tell you about this one story that happened while they still all had their same languages, okay? So that big picture, and then going back to the small picture, you see a lot in Genesis, and we see it here, okay?
That chapter 11 is before they actually dispersed
Right.
to their different areas.
Yes, and they had different languages and things like that. So we're going to kind of go microcosm back down to that little one.
But didn't they want to build a tower that went to heaven?
Yes. Okay, so they gather. What did God tell them to do?
Separate.
Go out. So they're being disobedient. Okay, let us gather. Let us build a city for our name. Let us build a tower to the heavens, because we want to be great and mighty. We want to make a name for ourselves. So what do you hear there? Pride. Remember, pride's at the root of every single sin. Let us do for us. Let us make a name for us. Okay? And so God says, yeah, that's not going to happen. Not on my watch. Okay? You're being disobedient, and I'm going to come down. Remember, again, we have come down.
So is that referring to Jesus?
We have Jesus that comes down, and he says, let us judge them. Right? Let us judge them. Okay?
See, the chosen should go further into all this.
Right? It's so cool when you start seeing Genesis. You understand the whole rest of the Bible. Okay, so God comes down, he confuses their language, so now they can't understand each other. But what happens is that some of them start grouping up, because you finally find people who you can understand. Oh, you can speak my language, you can understand me. And so they start dividing, and they start then spreading out, and then they start being obedient. Imagine that. God God makes them be obedient. This is what I told you to do. I will make you do it. Okay? So God's not being mean here. People in the sin of pride was taking over, and God says, I'm not going to allow that to happen. Okay? All right. So verses 10 through 26, we have a genealogy that basically goes from Shem, so Noah's son Shem, to our man Terah here. Okay? So if you want to follow that genealogy, I encourage you to read it, but you probably are not going to understand any of the names there. Don't worry about it.
And that's like thousands of years or?
We're talking about a couple of 100 years because we actually started having kids a lot earlier. Imagine, we get men who are having kids at 35 instead of 300. The scandal that would have happened, okay? I mean, it's like a tenth of their year, okay? All right. It would have been a scandal at that time.
It's like, but I mean, it's like when you think about kids now at like 14
Right.
and 15.
Y'all think y'all have family drama. Read Genesis, okay?
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, verse 12, he had a child at 35. What? And then it goes all the way down to
He's practically a
29.
baby.
Well, and if you're a woman and you're 35, they're telling you,
Yeah.
good
Well,
luck.
I was-
Chop, chop.
I literally actually had the doctor tell me at 26 I was old I was like,
Right.
no, I'm sorry for starting my family.
But imagine, remember we read all of those names before? They were 300, 400, having their first kid. Okay, they lived a really long time before they had their first kid. Nahor was 29, y'all. 29 when he starts having kids.
Babies having babies.
Babies having babies, I'm telling you. All right, so let's go to verse 27, and we're going to read about Terah and his descendants. Okay? So, chapter 11, verse 27. Now, these are the generations of Terah. Don't worry, I'm going to walk you through all of that, but I'm going to read it first. Terah fathered Abram, Nahor, and Haran fathered Lot. Yes, that Lot. We will come back to Lot. Haran died in the presence of his father Terah in the land of his kindred in Ur of the Chaldees. You've probably heard that before. And Abraham and Nahor took wives. Now, they had a lot of choices. They make interesting choices. The name of Abraham's son was Sarai. The name of Nahor's wife was Milcah, the daughter of Haran, the father of Milcah.
Niece.
Niece. Nahor marries his niece. Okay?
Ew.
And what we find out later in Genesis is that Abraham marries his half-sister. They have different mothers, they have the same father. So we will not, yeah, they had a lot of choices again. They made interesting choices. Yeah, so so the double lines is marriage, the single lines is birth, okay? Nahor marries his niece, Abraham marries his half-sister. Okay?
Oh my.
You only have what, 4 girls to choose from?
Did they
right?
all-
No, there's a lot to choose from. We've read all the descendants. Remember, we have a lot to choose from.
And they choose
And
family?
they choose family. Very interesting, isn't it?
That's gross.
Not so gross back then. It was very common
Probably
back then.
not.
Okay. Where am I? 30. Okay, verse 30. Now, Sarai was barren. In case you didn't know what that means, she had no children. Okay, it's barren, no children. She can't have children. 31. Terah took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, his grandson, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, and also his daughter, his son Abram's wife, and they went forth together from Ur the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. But then when they came to Haran, they settled there. So that's a city that he named after his son. Okay? The days of Terah were 250, and Terah died in Haran. Alright, so let's unpack this. Alright. This is the
205.
205, yes, 205 years old.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I was like-
Sorry, I misspoke. 205 years old. So this is the genealogy that starts that turning point in Genesis. So we're going from all of the earth and all of these great things that happened, and now we're going to focus in on one guy right here. The rest of Genesis focuses on Abram and his family. Okay?
Time out. We're not going to talk about Terah and these 97 people?
I'm going to walk you through in just a second.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. That's a lot.
We go big picture and then we go small picture.
Okay.
So I'm going to tell you the general and then we're going to go small. Okay? So this is the line that the Messiah is going to come from. Okay? And the book of Genesis covers more than 2,000 years. So from Genesis 1 to Genesis 50, we cover 2,000 years of events. So 20 generations here. But a third of it is spent right here on this man and his family. Okay? So So you're gonna see that as we continue on, okay? Abraham's family, when they moved to Ur of the Chaldees, that is Babylon. Okay, so they moved from Babylon down into Haran, which is kind of right on the border of Turkey and Syria, before they get to Canaan. So they stop and they hesitate in Haran, and Terah ends up dying. Okay, and Haran ends up dying, and that is why Abraham takes his nephew with him. Okay, so let's walk through this here. Terah is a descendant of which of Noah's three? Shem. Okay, he has Abram. Okay, Nahor and Haran. Abram marries his half sister from a different mother, and they end up having Isaac. Okay, we're gonna talk about Isaac.
You said Sarah was barren.
Well, she was.
She is right now. We're talking about what happens in the rest of Genesis. So you can kind of follow the picture here, the big picture of what's going to happen. Okay? So we will talk about Isaac and all of that.
Performs the miracle.
Abram also gets with Hagar. Okay? You don't know Hagar, and they have Ishmael. We're going to talk about them in that story. Just giving you a big picture.
At the same time, or does Sarai die and then he gets with Hagar?
No.
Oh, they just be cheating.
Concubine.
Concubine. Okay.
We're going to get to that story.
That's
Let's
like
get
you
to
don't
it.
like.
Sarah's idea.
And it's Sarah's idea. Yeah.
Is it Sarah or Sarai's?
It's Sarai, and then she gets changed into Sarah. So their names get changed later. We're going to cover all this in Genesis. Just trying to give you a big picture.
Okay.
Big
Stop
picture.
getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, remember we're doing big picture and then we're gonna focus in. Okay, so Nahor marries his niece first, okay, and then they end up having 8 sons. So these are all 8
That's a whole lot of boys.
sons. But you see a contradiction here. When Nahor gets married, his wife produces 8 sons as opposed to Sarah, who we are told is barren. So this contrast in picture here, 8 sons. The last one is Bethuel, who we will get Rebecca from, as Rebecca's father, who later in Genesis ends up marrying Isaac.
So technically, they're
They're
family too.
Cousins.
So was it as normal back then for a girl to marry her uncle as it was for a girl to marry
Apparently.
her half brother?
Yeah, this seems to be like possibly a culture thing that's going on here, but it wasn't like they didn't have other options. So we kind of see maybe a little bit of fear going into this. That
Going outside of their culture.
going outside of their people and their culture, we'll just marry amongst ourselves to fear. So which is also a disobedience to what God told them to do.
Which is go out and.
Go out and multiply. So we do see that underlining little bit of probably should not have happened. Okay? But not that there is a command against it yet. There will be a command against it. It is not in place yet. Alright? So they have 8 sons, and we eventually get Rebecca. Okay? He also takes a concubine. Okay? A concubine. And has another 4 sons. So do that math. What's 8 plus 4?
12.
12 sons.
But now, that our name isn't related?
No, she's not related.
Oh, bless
She's
her.
yeah, she's
She's just the side hustle.
yeah.
Side piece. She's a side piece.
But we don't know where
She's an official side piece.
we
Yeah.
don't know where she came from.
No, we're not told anything about her other than her name.
And
And that she produces 4 sons. So again, we have 4 sons compared to 0. Okay, so we also have 2 wives who produce 12 sons.
Interesting number.
Interesting number that shows up that we are going to talk about a
Time out, hold
lot.
on. Why is that an interesting number?
Because you have the 12 tribes.
Because we have the 12 tribes
Oh, okay.
that come from Jacob, and we're also told that Ishmael
Okay.
has 12 sons.
Okay.
So we have 3 sets of 12 boys from multiple women. Don't miss that one either, okay? Because when we get to Jacob and Esau, does anybody know how many wives Jacob ends up having?
12.
4. 2 wives and 2 concubines. He has 4 women who come up with the 12 tribes. Alright,
It's just meant to be nice.
and then this is our Lot, okay? Yes, Lot. because his father dies, Abram is the one who decides to take him on and basically kind of adopt him as his own son. He brings him into the fold of his family, and he provides for him and takes care of him.
But not the other
To
two.
the other,
So this is a woman, these are both sisters. This is
Oh,
a
oh,
sister,
oh.
this is a sister.
Oh,
So
those are chickens.
they would have
Okay.
probably been married off. We're not told anything about
Yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah.
She was probably
Only
married
Lot.
off. She was
Okay.
under Nahor. So
Yeah.
Lot is basically by himself.
Okay.
So that is why you find Abram takes over Lot.
Okay.
Okay, so he brings him into his household and takes care of him because this is his nephew.
as the world
Okay.
turns.
As the world turns into Genesis, yes, absolutely. Okay, and then Isaac will eventually marry his cousin once removed. I think cousin once removed, if I have that math correctly.
First cousin.
And they will have Jacob and Esau. Okay, so we are gonna kind of filter through here, but I wanted you to get the overall big picture because we're gonna talk a lot about Abram and Sarai. We're gonna talk about Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Esau, Ishmael. So this is where the rest of Genesis, the rest of the whole chapters, come from this. But you got to understand this big genealogy to understand why we're doing all of this.
How far from Babel
Right.
to Terra?
We're not told.
Because Ham is the one who his family goes and basically colonizes Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But Hagar's Egyptian, so at some point, Shem's family did go into Africa and come back
Oh yeah,
out.
they didn't just go to like one location. They start spreading that direction. So you kind of start seeing the three brothers kind of reaching and spreading out throughout the world. Yeah.
Okay, so who's the uncle that Jacob went to?
Ah, the brother of Rebecca. Is Laban.
Yeah, Laban, I can think of his name.
So that's her brother. So Jacob,
And he's from, yeah, okay.
he runs back home and he goes to see Uncle Laban. We'll get to that story too.
Sorry, I was just trying to find him.
And
I'm
what's
sorry.
interesting is where does Esau run off to? Do you know where Esau runs off to?
Ishmael.
He runs to Ishmael.
Why are they
I
running?
did not know that.
We're gonna talk about that story.
And
Come
I
Look, remember, it's as Genesis turns.
Yes, as Genesis turns, I want you to see the relationship so when we get there, you're gonna go, oh, I know that guy. I know that
Now,
person.
like, what's the big thing that Abram does? Like, what isn't there like a big thing that he's like?
Oh, we have several chapters in his drama.
Oh, I have to wait.
Yeah. Do you know Abraham? Abraham and Sarah. They get their names changed. God changes their name.
Okay.
Not to cover up their drama. Because they have more drama when their name changes.
So that ends up being Father Abraham.
That becomes father.
Okay.
Had many
Okay.
sons, except he only had two.
That's so weird. Then why would they say
So
that?
it's spiritual children. We are children of Father Abraham. As in, we're all spiritual children of Father Abraham. It's how we all.
Because of the promise that God made to him about,
And he multiplied his seed.
He multiplies his son, except he only has two sons. Yeah,
They forgot that verse.
yeah, they forgot.
That got cut in production.
Spiritual sons, kind of, it's hard to fit into the verse to say spiritual children, but yeah. Alright, so any other questions about this genealogy? Remember, take a picture of it. It really helps if you start understanding how everyone is related here. Okay? Let me turn off the video and then we're taking any more questions.
And have it printed in like